Hello, today is the 28th of May 2026. Welcome to another diary entry of mine. I would say that this video could be called Overwhelmed because I have been feeling quite overwhelmed recently because there is a lot of changes happening in my life this year, and I have been organizing all of that basically the past few weeks. During all of that, I haven't really been keeping an eye on myself, which is the reason I then feel overwhelmed by the end of it, and I feel kind of depressed and sad because I haven't been really checking in with myself, checking in with what I need, if I need a break, if I need to just take care of myself more, especially when it comes to my inner voice. I haven't been really keeping a good eye on that because I've been so distracted that I haven't really been noticing that my inner voice in certain moments was very harsh and very hurtful and very catastrophic as well, which is the reason that now I'm at the point where I feel overwhelmed and sort of depressed, and not in like a super extreme bad way, like, oh my god, I'm depressed. No, but it's just sort of like a moment, a phase, because everything just got a little too much and I haven't been keeping an eye on myself. I have my notes here, so if I look down, it's because I have some bullet points written down of what I want to speak about, because I literally had to do that because there's so much that happened. Like, I had to write down bullet points so I wouldn't forget everything. And this is not even half of what was going on. I'm just gonna explain the most important things where I had some like life lessons and things that affected me more deeply. Let's put it that way. Starting with my move to Germany. By the end of summer this year, I will be living in Germany. I am becoming a kindergarten teacher and I'm getting a qualification for that, which means for 2 years I basically have to study and work. And I got accepted in a school already that I will be studying at for 3 days a week, and then I got accepted also in a kindergarten that I'll be working at the other 2 days of the week. There are many thoughts going on and related to that, simply because, first of all, it's a massive change in my life. I have lived with my parents all my life. It's a massive change that now I'm moving out, and on top of that, moving to a different country. I have been in Spain alone for many weeks at a time, months at a time at some point as well, and I managed it. So I know I'm able to live alone, though sometimes being fully alone was quite challenging, which is why I'm very grateful that my boyfriend also wants to come over and visit me quite a lot, and he also is open to moving there at some point. But of course, I want to also be able to feel stable and confident by, living alone. And I think that honestly, whenever I was in Spain alone, I was kind of allowed to do whatever I wanted every day, and then often I didn't know what to do and I was kind of feeling lost and like in the middle of the air, I wasn't feeling very grounded. I was more like floating about, like not really having anything stable. And now in Germany, that's going to be very different. Like, I'll be busy from Monday to Friday, and I'll have the weekend then to relax or to do some whatever I want to do. So I think, I won't have the same problem that I did have in Spain. But still, living alone, I think, is always kind of a challenge. But it really depends on what you do with that. Yeah, I mean, that's the other exciting and kind of nerve-wracking, but honestly more exciting bit, that my boyfriend wants to move over there with me as well. Yeah, and then obviously starting a job in the kindergarten will be different because I've never worked in a kindergarten before. I really love kids though, and I've always felt like I wanted to support kids, and I learned so much from them, and it just connects me with that feeling of freedom to be around kids because they live way more in the moment and live way more free of problems and thoughts. I'm not very like worried about that. The thing that I'm worried about the most is the school. Going back into a school. And I really shouldn't say going back, because I'm not going back to anything. I'm not going back to my old experiences, my old schools, my old classmates. I'm not going back, you know? But I am going into a different school. And the challenging part about that is that I did not have an easy school life my entire life. And I went to many different schools. I went to school here in Ireland, I went to school in Australia, in Germany, and secondary school back in Ireland as well. The only time I sort of felt okay going to school was in Germany, and that was simply because I had friends and I focused way more on friends and having fun, whereas basically the rest of my school life I felt very, very alone. And that felt very scary because I felt like I needed someone else. Like I needed my mom, for example, to kind of save me, to give me comfort. I felt very bare in school. I felt very much like I could be attacked at any moment, and I didn't feel like I had the skills to protect myself. And that is a very, very scary place to be in as a child, when you feel so bare and so vulnerable, and at any moment you could be attacked and you don't know how to catch yourself. And that's basically how I felt my entire school life. In secondary school, especially here in Ireland, I went there for 3 years. I finished early because I couldn't take it anymore. Like my mental health was so bad. I really just had to leave. Those 3 years were the most horrible years of my life. I fell into a very, very deep depression. I had OCD on top of that, which made my life hell. Going to school every day was torture. Like school was my hell on earth, literally. I had no friends. I felt completely alone, completely isolated, and completely vulnerable. And the people around me did not do me any good whatsoever. Every day I felt drained. I went home crying. I didn't know how I should manage the next day. That was always a struggle. Every single evening, the only thing I thought about was how will I manage the next day? And I didn't have an answer. So I think it's very understandable why I'm scared to go back. No, let's not say go back, to enter a new school. When I left school at the age of 15, I was almost 16, I promised myself I would never step foot into a school again. I was like, I am not doing that to myself again. I promised myself I would never force myself to do anything ever again that would affect my mental health in a negative way. And so I'm still sticking with that promise that if going into a school in Germany affects my mental health in a bad way, I am still promising myself that I will not force myself to go. That's the good thing. Like I am making this decision by myself, you know, it's not mandatory for me to go into that school. That's the good thing. Like as a child, you're told you have to, that there's no other choice, even though I think there are other choices as well, like homeschooling would have been an option. But you know, you're told you have to do this, you know, and that feels even more like, oh my God, how am I meant to manage something that I feel like I can't do, but I have to do? That's such a vulnerable feeling. That's the good thing, you know, now that this is my own choice to go into school, because I want to work with kids, even if I just do it for the 2 years and then leave that job. But I was ready, I felt ready for a long time to do something new. And technically I just wanted to work in a kindergarten, but that didn't really work out for many reasons. And so it meant I had to also go to school. And so I was like, okay, if it means I have to do that, then I'll do that. Though the thing is, I will stick to my promise that if my mental health is bad, I'm going to stop it, because nothing is worth putting your mental health like on a platter. Mental health is number one. And because I was once at that state in my life where my mental health was literally on the floor, it was non-existent. I did not have any mental health. I know I will always prioritize my mental health. Nothing else matters that much. No job in the world matters as much if it hurts my mental health, if it tears me down, if it affects my mental health in any sort of way, in any bad way, you know, it's not worth it. No money in the world is worth bad mental health. Yeah, I will just have to see how I'll be. And the thing is now also, I know that I can totally influence my experience of school. That I had such a hard time in school because I didn't know how to manage my thoughts and my emotions. If I would have known how to do that, I would have felt way more capable of going to school, even if I didn't have any friends, you know, even if I felt alone. But I would have felt like I can manage it because I would have known how to manage my thoughts and emotions. But that was not the case back then. It is the case now, though. That's the good thing, that's the relieving thing. I went through a mental health program called the Thrive program, where you really learn how to manage your thoughts and emotions and help yourself feel like you can manage things even if they don't go well, even if there's hurdles along the way, that you can manage that. And yes, there are days and moments and weeks where I don't really feel like I'm on top of that, where I don't really feel like I'm managing them very well, though I am aware that it is up to me, that my experience is because of my thoughts and emotions. So if I manage them, my experience is very different. Yeah, which means that I will be my own support. I just want to get to that level where I really can support myself, because what I said at the beginning of this video, if I get very busy, I can often lose track of myself, and so my mental health kind of suffers. And that is not what I want to happen, obviously, but I'm still on that path of learning how to be very aware of myself and be very aware of when my mental health starts to suffer, so that I can immediately pick myself up and not let myself fall any further. And so that's just kind of what I'm a bit afraid of in Germany, that I won't fully be able to support myself. But that's the thing, I'm still learning to do that, and someday I will be there, that like I will feel like I can manage everything because I've got myself. I know how to manage my thoughts and emotions, and I have the belief that no matter what happens, I've got this. And so that's kind of given me a little light in that whole subject, that like, you know, I can go to school there and actually have a good experience. Like, that is possible because I'm a different person. I'm way more aware of my thoughts and emotions and way more aware of how to handle them. And again, if I need a break, if I need to leave, that's always an option. I can always do that. But again, like, I'm different, and I need to remember that I'm not my 15-year-old self anymore. At the same time, I'm also aware that like it's a completely new school with completely new people, and I could actually possibly make friends or make connections or get along with the people. So I can actually go into a school and feel confident and feel safe. I don't have to feel the way that I used to always feel in a school anymore. Like, I don't have to feel that way. And the thing is, it isn't fully like a proper school. It's like a college type thing, but not proper college either. And it's not like the teachers are above me anymore, you know, that they can tell me what to do or they make decisions for me, and I feel like, oh, I have to now do this, I have to live up to it, otherwise who knows what will happen. Technically nothing either. So yeah, worst case scenario, I'll be kicked off the school, but that is so unlikely to happen. Like, what would I have to do to be kicked out? Like, so like, if I don't always do my homework, don't always do every assignment, maybe that's not such a bad thing. And also, like I said, teachers aren't above me. They can't tell me what to do. I'm 20 years old. Like, I am an adult. they are gonna treat me as an equal. I'm guessing, I hope so, because like that's how you should treat other adults. Yeah, again, it's all very different, and I'm not like in school learning maths, history, geography, all these different subjects. I am there for one specific thing that I'm studying. Yeah, it's all very different, and I've actually had some moments where I saw myself going to school and feeling good, like feeling confident about it and feeling excited to learn, and like, I don't know, getting along with the people, or even if I don't have any friends, but still just enjoying the studies, enjoying the classes, not feeling vulnerable going to school, but actually smiling and being like, wow, I'm living a new life in Germany. I'm managing all this by myself. I'm finally doing something new that I felt ready for many months, you know? I felt like it was time for something new, and now I've finally taken active steps to get to a new place and a new life experience. The other difficult thing about going to Germany and living there is being away from my family. Though I know I can call them anytime, and if anything is wrong or if I need them, they will fly over to me. I know that. So I kind of feel okay being away from my family, even though it's still quite scary, because I've lived with my family my whole life and I love my family. I love being close to them. I love living with them, even though right now as well I often feel like I want to be my own person. I want to live somewhere else, you know, like some family dynamics are healthy at some point to break off or to break apart from. But overall, like, I never want my family to break apart, because I think we are such a special family. We always work together. We always try to help each other, support each other, and we all know that we're there for each other if we need one another. And that's the special thing about my family. We are always there for each other. Yeah, so I'm just a little sad and scared to like be away from them and not see them every day, you know, and not just simply have someone to chat to if I feel like it. But the most painful and hard part about that is leaving my dog, because I won't be able to just ring her up and chat to her and like communicate with her. She like especially won't see me. Like if my family films her for me, yeah, lovely, I'll be able to see her. It's not the same. Like you're not actually communicating with your dog, you know, because they don't hear you, they don't see you, and they don't feel you either. And that's the thing. Like I love feeling Akela near me. It gives me such comfort just if I'm working here at home and like just have my hand on her, you know. It gives me such comfort to feel another living being next to me, a living being that's so at peace and so in the moment and doesn't worry, you know? Like, this girl has taught me so much in my life and has been through the most horrible moments with me. And after my depression, she was the one thing I had, the one thing that was with me while I was finding myself again, while I was finding happiness, while I was living happily again, finally smiling again. You know, like she was with me through all of that, and we got so close that now I really feel like we have such a special bond, such a special connection that can't really be described in words, and not everyone has that with animals. And so I just always knew if I ever feel down, I can go to her and I'm guaranteed to smile. I'm guaranteed to feel comfort. I'm guaranteed after a few minutes to feel somewhat better. Even if the problem isn't solved, I feel somewhat better after being with her. And so that's what I'm scared to not have anymore. That comfort, that guarantee to smile and to feel okay again. And I know that I'm the only one who can really give myself comfort and pick myself up again. But oftentimes it's not that easy for me. But it's something obviously I want to learn and I want to reach. I've even, you know, when I was in Spain for a couple months alone, it was sometimes very hard for me to pick myself up, and I knew that if I would have had Akela in that moment, it would have been so much easier for me to feel okay again. yeah, I just feel very guilty as well about leaving her because she's 9 years old now, and if I'm gone for 2 years, obviously I'll come back and visit her during the holidays, but I won't be with her 24/7, which is what I love most about my life here in Ireland, is being with Akela 24/7. And I just feel guilty because I don't know how much time she has left, and I don't want to waste a single second of her life. I want to spend every minute that I can with her. It's been like that for years, that I've always wanted to spend as much time as I could with her. Every single second that I could have her around me or be around her, I would take that. So that's something I'm very sad about. Yeah, that's hard. I think I want to learn to be okay without her as well, you know? I know that I'll always feel connected to her, our bond will always be there, and I'll always want her with me, but I want to also know that I'm okay even if she isn't there. That's kind of the update on Germany and my move to Germany. And yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of thoughts and emotions. But other than that, I am incredibly grateful that I have this opportunity, like that. There's no way like I'm taking that for granted, and I'm so grateful and so proud as well to myself and of myself that I am finally taking these steps, you know, that I wanted to take. And like how even a year ago I wouldn't have been ready to do this. I would have been too scared. So that just shows like how much more confident and stable I feel within myself. There's some trust that I will be able to manage it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have just made any of these decisions, you know? There's so much. This video is gonna be so long. Anyway, then the next thing is related to my boyfriend and our relationship. First of all, I want to say it's the most beautiful relationship I can imagine. It's so healthy. We talk about everything. If, you know, anything's wrong with us, if there's any sort of thoughts, emotions in us, we speak about that and we support each other in the best way we can. And really, it's the relationship that I have been looking for my whole life. He's the person I've been looking for my whole life. And I really know that I want to love him and I want to spend my life with him and I want to make it work. That's what I know. Yes, and what I want to speak about in relation to that is my OCD. I had very, very strong OCD when I was a teenager and when I was depressed, and it was related to anything to do with sex, sexuality, relationships. I felt extremely uncomfortable. I avoided all of that to the best way that I could. It was really, really horrible living like that. It was like living in a cage, and it was that uncomfortable feeling that I created to basically control myself when it came to anything to do with sex or sexuality. And so for a long time I didn't even know what my sexuality was, if I liked men or women, because I made myself feel so uncomfortable in relation to all genders, all everything. That's why this is also my first relationship, because I wouldn't have even been ready in the past, but also I was looking for something and someone very special and very specific that I have only met now in my life. So basically, we have done certain sexual things together and I've felt very calm throughout all of that. I haven't done anything that I felt uncomfortable with, and if I ever felt unsure, I told him, and we didn't do, you know, anything that I didn't feel sure about, you know? The thing is, sometimes I still have phases nowadays where memories of my OCD days come back, and so it's harder for me to then feel very comfortable with like sexual thoughts, for example, or any sexual needs or wants. And that's kind of been the case the past 1 or 2 weeks. that I've felt a bit more unsure again about my sexuality and about my sexual wants and needs. And the only time I really feel unsure about that is when I'm being hard on myself and beating myself up and basically telling myself that I shouldn't want this, I shouldn't do that, or it's weird, or whatever. You know, being in that state of being unsure is not very nice, because it makes me doubt a lot of things then. And you know, that's what I've been noticing, that my mind has been more catastrophic recently, you know. So if there's one thing I kind of feel a bit unsure about, it goes to the next thing and the next big thing and even bigger and bigger, you know, and then it feels like, whoa, this is such a big thing that I'm super unsure about right now. Technically it's not, because the thing is, I know that I want to be with him. I want to learn to fully love him, to fully trust him, to be able to be fully bare with him, and to also want sexual things with him, you know? I know that I want all of that, but then my feelings are kind of unsure, and not unsure about him. Unsure, oh, it's hard to explain it. Let's put it this way. There's certain thoughts that are still stopping me from really fully falling for him, fully opening myself up to him in like emotional way, that I'm letting my emotions fully flow with him. Because the thing is, I am totally open and honest with him. Like, we have been from the start, and I have told him all of this as well, my insecurities with my OCD, blah blah blah. I speak to him about everything, and he is the biggest support I could ever wish for. He is so understanding and so patient, and that feels extremely healing. Like, I can just take the time that I need. I can go step by step, and he'll hold my hand throughout all of it, you know? But let me just explain some of the fears that I still have, which are the reason for why I don't feel completely like, this is my guy, I want to live the rest of my life with him, I love him, I want everything with him, you know? Because I know it, but there's the feelings that are afraid to really feel that, in case, these are my fears, in case these fears come true. Number one, that one day he will realize he doesn't actually love me, that I'm not the person he thought I was, for example. Because in my life, I feel like everyone at some point kind of turned on me, I guess. And it's mainly my parents, because other people weren't close enough to me to really turn on me. But my parents are people that are the closest to me. They've known me my whole life. They've loved me the most out of everyone up until now, you know. I always thought, like, you know, they love me and they know me. But during my depression, when our relationships got really, really difficult, really rocky, and many horrible things happened between us, I felt like they suddenly didn't love me anymore, and they saw me as someone that I didn't want to be seen as. You know, I felt like they didn't know me anymore, and they didn't love me anymore. And that's just what I'm afraid of with him, that he's saying now, you know, he loves me and he wants to be with me and he wants to choose me every day and work through the horrible parts. But I'm scared that one day he's gonna be like, oh no, I actually don't love you, like, these parts about you I really don't like, and so it's not worth it to stay with you anymore, you're too difficult, for example. Because my parents both at some point abandoned me in my life and left me alone in my pain. And so he is basically saying, you know, that he wants to be with me throughout it all. And I trust that he really, really, he means it. I know he means it. But I'm scared that in the future, he's gonna think the same as my parents, like, you're too difficult, you have to deal with it by yourself. Like, we've tried our best and that's it, kind of. And I know my parents only did this in extreme arguments that we had, but in those moments it was exactly when I needed them the most. I was so vulnerable, I was so alone in my pain. I felt like I needed someone else to help me through, and in those very moments my parents abandoned me and left me to fight for myself, and so I was the only one who pulled myself through immense pain. So I think that's honestly a big reason why I'm not fully accepting what he is saying, because I'm still thinking like, yeah, maybe one day he won't think that way anymore and he'll abandon me. I know this is a fear I can work through. It's not going to be a fear that I will have forever. I know that this is something I can work through, and that even if one day I trust his word and I'm like, yeah, he means it, that I'll still know that even if he leaves me someday and he doesn't love me anymore, I can manage that and I'll be okay. You know, I want to get to that point first before fully trusting like he's never going to leave me, because I don't want to rely on anyone else. I want to be able to feel stable in myself, that like even if he does abandon me one day, that I'll be okay. I'll pick myself up. So that's number one. Number two is the other way around. I'm afraid to fully love him and fully trust his word, basically, because I'm scared to one day see that like he isn't the way I thought he was, you know? Because that again has to do with basically the same trauma with my parents. I thought they would always be there for me, they would always love me. I really trusted in that because I was a kid, like every kid trusts their parents, and also because my parents always promised me they would be there for me and they loved me. But there was a time in my life, the same time, where I felt like I didn't recognize my parents anymore. They weren't there for me. They weren't the people that they always told me they were for me. So I suddenly began to see my parents very differently. And I mean, it makes sense because I was depressed, I had OCD, me and my parents' relationship, it completely fell apart. So obviously I would see them somewhat differently, but that really, really scared me because as a kid, I loved my parents. They were my heroes. They were everything to me, really, and we were so close and so connected. Like, I trusted them with everything I had. And then suddenly it changed. Suddenly I felt like I didn't recognize them anymore. They were saying things to me that I thought they would never say to me. They were abandoning me, which is something I thought they would never do. I didn't feel like they were there for me. They weren't listening to me. And I saw them suddenly as people that maybe I couldn't really trust, and people that maybe I didn't actually know as well as I thought I knew them. And so that's the other thing I'm scared of with him, that like I will trust he is this certain person, and then one day it's going to turn out, oh wow, I actually don't like who he is, or and that's super catastrophic because even now I love my parents. We're still close. There are things about each other that we don't like. Sometimes we have weeks where it's more difficult to be with each other, where we don't get along very well. But at the end of the day, we love each other. We have each other, And so I know the same thing is true with my boyfriend, that we love each other, we have each other, and I know that he means what he says. I don't doubt that. He is a genuine, loving and caring person. And so I know that if I would ever see him as like someone that I don't recognize, for example, I know that that's a very catastrophic thought, that it's just going to be something about him that I don't really like. So there was a moment yesterday, for example, where he did something that I was a bit confused about because it didn't really suit him. He is a very patient guy, and he did something yesterday that was quite like impatient, and I talked to him about that. I was kind of like a little confused why he acted that way. And then I saw like his kind of pain from the past and certain experiences he had, and whatever, they created this sort of feeling in him in that moment where he then didn't feel like he really wanted to be very patient in relation to something specific. Not with me, by the way, not with me, like it had nothing to do with me. But yeah, I was just a little confused about that. And then that one thought of like, oh, maybe he's not the person I thought he was, that really got so catastrophic. So I felt more and more kind of depressed, honestly. I could barely smile anymore because that thought got so big, and I felt like, oh my god, like what if he's actually like that and not the way he says he is, or not the way I've been perceiving him the whole time. And that is so stupid. Now thankfully I can see it, but in that moment I really fell into a kind of depressed hole, and it was hard for me to get out of that. So after a while, I just had to really stop myself in my tracks and be like, okay, girl, for 1 second, just really think about this right now. Notice it's very catastrophic to think this way, and realize what kind of person you're actually looking at right now. You're looking at your boyfriend, who has only ever supported you in your emotional state, like whatever that was, who has only ever been patient with you, and if there were any problems, you talked things through, and there's so much proof that he's a good person and he doesn't mean any harm. Like, there is so much proof. And so I just had to remind myself of that and be like, girl, like your mind is making this so bad, and it does not need to be that bad. The only reason it got that bad was because of a former belief I already had, that like, what if the people I trust and love turn out to be people that are the complete opposite of what I thought they were. So because of my experiences with my parents and so on, that belief, is still in me, which is definitely something I want to work on, because I know everyone has bad sides. Everyone has some sides that, we won't like about each other. And that is okay. That doesn't immediately mean he's a completely different person. I can't love him anymore. I don't know, I can't trust him. He didn't mean anything that he said. It doesn't mean that, that is what catastrophizing is. And that's what happened yesterday. I was like, yeah, I don't know if I can love him. What if he's very different to what I thought he was, blah, blah, blah. So I really had to calm myself down for a second and list all the proof that he's been everything amazing to me, and really, and that this thing wasn't even that bad, the little thing he was impatient with isn't even bad. Like, my dad is so impatient with so many things. I had to kind of get perspective back and realize, look, this is only because of a certain belief I have, and that's why it got so big, even though it didn't need to be. It was really not a big situation. And I know that if I would talk more to him about it, it would all get clarified. I would understand why he acted that way, and would realize it's really not that big and that hurtful or whatever. So yeah, there's definitely those two things that I've only realized. One of the things I actually only realized yesterday, I think, that I have this belief, but these are two things, and there's probably more, that are the reason for why I get sad sometimes when he tells me how much he loves me and that he wants to spend the rest of his life with me, you know? I sometimes get so sad and I'm quite confused about that. And I think I get sad because I want to tell him that as well. I want to be completely sure of that as well. But there is these thoughts, these certain beliefs that are still stopping me from fully trusting. And I mean, it's always good to not fully trust and like fully let go of yourself. Like, it's always good to be aware, you know, you don't want to lose yourself in the love either, you know, you want to be aware of what's actually happening. But I know that there is these sort of fears that are still stopping me from fully loving him. And obviously with my OCD and sex as well, then sometimes I'm like, do I even want anything sexual with him? Like, am I attracted to him? You know, because that's what the OCD then does. It makes me very unsure about that. But the thing that I can say is, when these thoughts are not in my head, when these fears are not present in those moments, I feel very fine. I feel very much like I love him. I want to be with him. I want to build a life with him. I love him, you know? So yeah, the only reason I feel unsure is because of these certain fears. If they were gone, I don't know, he's everything I've ever wished for, you know? So if there's no fear in my head, then I'd not feel so unsure and I'd be like, wow, this is so amazing, you know? And I think that's honestly something I need to do more at the moment, is to actually realize how amazing certain things in my life are. To really point it out and be like, look at how special this is, you know? Even if it's not perfect, if it doesn't feel 100% like exciting, and even if there's a bit of fear as well, like it's still so amazing. And I know that my life is not a bad life. I have a great life. Nothing in my life is bad, literally, and I can say that, and that's amazing. Nothing in my life is bad. It's really incredible, you know? Then there was another moment, situation with my mom, where, yeah, I'm not going to go too much into it, but basically it was also quite catastrophic in my head, and it turned out to be quite a big moment emotionally, where I just felt like she isn't understanding me, and most of all, I didn't feel like she was supporting me. I felt that way kind of with my family recently, that instead of really supporting me and understanding my situation right now, they're more like making it harder for me. That's what I've just felt. Because, you know, if my family would be very understanding with my situation, they would understand that there's many changes happening in my life right now. That's a lot to just, you know, deal with, and a lot of mental preparation as well that goes into it, for me anyways. And especially with going into a school, living in a different country, being away from my family, like, that's nerve-wracking, you know? And I haven't really felt like my family was being very understanding with that. And that's the thing as well, I haven't really been communicating that either with my family, that I'm kind of like nervous and I'd like their support, you know? So that's something I then did with mom. But at first, it didn't, it went the wrong direction. And again, I felt like, oh wow, I'm asking for support and she's doing the exact opposite. She's again telling me what I should do, how I should behave. I don't know, telling me that I'm seeing things way too catastrophically, and like, you know, like, instead of being on my level, just seeing me in the pain, all she does is focus on the pain and then tell me the solutions, tell me what I should do about it, you know? And that's not what I need. I need someone to see me, to support me, instead of telling me how to solve my own problems. Like, I'll figure it out. And if I want solutions, I'll ask you for them. But in that moment, I asked her for support and she couldn't give that to me. So that was kind of a catastrophic moment. I went into the house crying, blah, blah, blah. I was in my room alone for a while. Then she came to me and started crying and apologized that she couldn't be there for me. So she realized, like, you know, what happened in that moment. because technically the conversation started because she wanted to help me, but then she noticed she did the exact opposite, you know, she made it harder for me. And so she came into my room and apologized, and that was a very bonding and sweet moment. And so she sat on the floor with me and was in that moment ready to listen to me and ready to really support me. So we talked about a few things that I've just been kind of dealing with at the moment. There's also this certain sadness that I feel whenever there's a moment of silence or where I'm alone. There's this certain sadness that kind of hits me, and I think it's because I'm constantly searching for happiness. Like I actively like I want to be happy, and then if I don't find happiness, I'm disappointed and I'm sad. And so that's something that we talked about there, is that happiness can't be found. Happiness is in every single moment, in every single person. And that's something I know as well, but it was nice to be reminded of, like, look at happiness in every single moment. Look at the good in every moment. And instead of always running to the next moment, be more here, notice more things. Yeah, and I was like, I often, when I feel that sadness, it's a very deep sadness, because I ask myself, like, what is my purpose? Like, why am I even on this earth? What am I doing here? I can often feel like I'm wasting my time, and like I should be doing something way bigger, because like, why else am I on this earth? Like, it has to be for a big purpose, you know? I have to be living out my fullest potential, and I feel like I'm not doing that, you know? But that is so much pressure as well. And honestly, everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And I'm just giving myself too much pressure that I have to live my full potential. I have to achieve something massive right now in this moment. But it's like, no, just live every moment, you know? And what I noticed in life is that you are the most rich in life. You feel like your potential is being lived out fully when you are in line with yourself. When you are happy and at peace within yourself, because in that moment you don't need anything else. You have everything you will ever need right there within you. And this is something I actually spoke about with the owners of the dog I often dog sit. We've actually gotten quite close, even though they're a lot older than me. They're like late 50s, but they just see me and understand me in ways that most people don't. And so our connection is just very, very interesting, and it's very deep. We all think in very deep ways. And so something that I talked about with them recently, one of their friends asked me what my drive in life is. I don't know, his words were very interesting. I don't fully remember it, but I do remember that my answer was that I think I'm always searching for happiness and going towards happiness, because there was a time in my life where I truly lived happy, and the happiness was that I simply felt like I didn't need anything else to be happy and to be fine. I felt like I had everything I needed within me. I felt so whole. There was that knowing in me that I don't need anything else. I have everything in me. And that is something that I am still looking for now, because then at some point in my life, after living like that for about a year, where I felt like I really had everything I ever needed and I didn't need more, and that was just because I felt that way within, it wasn't like I suddenly had a car and I felt like, oh, now I have everything I need, you know? It wasn't anything outside that changed in my life. It was in me. I felt like I had everything I needed in me. And I really felt so whole. I wasn't looking for anything on the outside. I didn't need anything. It was all there. Yeah, then some bigger things happened in my life and in my family. And so I kind of lost that feeling. And since then, I've been trying to find my way back to it. Because I know that everyone can live that way. I know that I can live that way. And I know that everyone has everything they need within them. That's why I love babies and dogs, like animals, so much. Because they are still way more connected to that feeling of wholeness, of not needing anything else, of having everything you need within you. That's why I love being around them, because they help me connect with that feeling more. That's my drive in life. Speaking about that with these special people really just helped me feel so much more at peace within myself as well, that I had to remind myself, like, looking for happiness, that doesn't work. It's exhausting. It's like as if you have to be different than the way you are, or you have to have something different than what you have. But really, that's just an illusion. That's a lie. That's not true. Like, if you want to be happy, you can be happy right now, because you have all of that within you. Nothing on the outside has to change for you to be happy. So of course, surface level happiness can be created by changing the outside, by getting a new job, by, you don't want to be, unhappy with the life that you have either, like with the job, with the people around you. If you don't feel good with that, then obviously that's something you can change. I'm not saying you shouldn't change that, because happiness is within you, no. But the real happiness, the real freedom, the real feeling of wholeness is within you. So that even if you change your life situation and get a new job that you prefer, great. That'll help you feel better in a certain way, but it won't help you achieve inner fulfillment and inner happiness. Because all you need for that is yourself. And you always have yourself. And another thing my mom and I talked about is this feeling of responsibility I always have, that I feel like I need to be good for everyone and everything, and I always need to take care of everyone. And, even though often people aren't even asking me to do that, but I just kind of do it automatically. And so that has been very exhausting, because I've been feeling like I want to be great and perfect for my whole family, and somehow I felt like I've been failing, because all of them haven't been super happy with me. And that's simply because I've been feeling very tired and overwhelmed, that like I couldn't be the best version of myself with them. I was just tired. And like I said, I didn't feel very supported by them, which is something that now I'm asking for them to just be there for me, just support me, understand my situation without making it harder, in the sense of telling me what I should do, telling me what I should change and work on, because I know that myself. And really, I'm such an aware person that it's never new to me when someone says something to me about myself. Like, it's never new information to me. And in those moments where I feel overwhelmed, it's because I'm already telling myself, you're not doing good enough, and that you should have been nicer in this situation. Why aren't you a better sister? Why aren't you a better daughter? Why, things like that. Yeah, this whole responsibility thing has been something I honestly dealt with my whole life. Even when I was a kid, I always felt responsible for everyone and everything. And whenever I felt like I was imperfect, I immediately felt like I wasn't good enough. And honestly, that's something that I don't feel anymore now on a daily basis, but I have been feeling again recently, because I haven't been keeping a great eye on myself and my inner self-talk. So I felt like I was failing as a sister, failing as a daughter. I felt like I wasn't good enough, and I should have been doing more and should have been doing better. And with the conversation with Mom, I just noticed like everyone's responsible for themselves, and I don't need to be doing more than I'm doing. I don't need to be perfect. I don't need to be great. And if I don't always get along with everyone in my family, it's okay, because it's just a phase. As soon as I pick myself up again and I'm happier with myself, then I'm also happier with the people around me. And it's all just a phase, but I think I just needed to learn in that moment to not take responsibility for everyone, especially my sisters as well, and to just be like, look, they're responsible for their own lives, and I just need to take care of myself. And if I do that, then I'm automatically kind of taking care of everyone around me as well, because if you're in a good mood, that will affect people. If you're in a bad mood, that will affect people. So if I take care of myself and put myself in a good mood, then people around me will be uplifted and happy as well. Yeah, and two other things I also discussed with the owners of the dog is, like, we had a whole day out. It was such a beautiful day, and we basically had deep conversations the whole time. So there was so many life lessons that went through our conversations, and I just wrote down 3 of the most important ones. One of them was, for example, that, I've been feeling very overwhelmed. But if I were to look at the things individually, it wouldn't actually feel very big and overwhelming. The only reason it feels overwhelming is because I'm looking at everything all at once, and that's like too much to deal with, But if I would look at everything individually, it actually wouldn't feel and seem that big, and I would much more feel like I can manage this. Like, I know what I need to do. It might be a little challenging, but if I do this and this, it'll be better, and I'll feel more capable. So that was actually very, very interesting to talk about that. That sometimes if we're overwhelmed, we just need to look at something individually by itself and be like, look, this actually isn't so big. The other thing that she told me, which was some sort of advice that really suited me, was that deciding for yourself or deciding against others is actually quite different. I don't know if this makes sense, but for example, if I'm moving to Germany and I'm deciding to do that because I am so pissed at my parents and I just want to leave them and I just want to get away from them, that would be making the decision based on basically a negative emotion, and it's going against someone else, like I just want to leave them. But if I'm deciding to go to Germany because I feel like I'm ready for something new, I feel like my life needs to take a turn and I just want to try out different things, then that's based on an emotion that's way more like healthy and uplifting, and if I would make a decision against others, then I'm basically making a link between my life's decision and those people. That's quite like a negative link that I will then have to learn to, break. And that was honestly very, very interesting, that conversation, because I feel like I'm kind of deciding based on both things because I have been feeling quite tired living with my parents. So I've been feeling like I want to get away from them, but I've also for a long time been feeling like my life is ready for something new. Like I want to see what my real potential is, and I want to learn to live that out. And even though I might not even find that in Germany or in a kindergarten, but at least like I've tried here in Ireland and I haven't really been feeling like this is what I want, And again, real potential is within you. So I won't find it there in the kindergarten, but I can make the outside of my life somewhat more joyful for me, and learn to find my inner potential right within me. It's just right here, it's nowhere else. So that's just something I want to be aware of, and then see, like, technically I don't want to move to Germany to like be away from my parents, because I don't want us to be on bad terms, I want us to always love each other and feel like we can go to each other, visit each other, and all of that. Like I want it to be on good terms, so I don't want to move to Germany with the thought in the back of my head like I want to be away from my parents, Anyway, so much in my head. This really helped to just talk all this out of my head and make some more space in there. I've definitely, had moments where I felt quite depressed over the past few days. I mean, I guess it makes sense because that's a lot of thoughts, you know, to have in your head. And there's even more than that, you know, these are just the main things, but there's more than that. So it's quite a lot, and especially when you're not your own biggest support, then it feels even more overwhelming and catastrophic. So that's something I definitely want to get back on track, that I'm my own support. I have a kind inner voice, and know that I can manage it all, and just live more in the moment, have more breaks, or, you know, be more aware of what I'm doing instead of running to the next thing. It's all solvable, it's all possible. There's a solution to every problem. Honestly, it always makes sense. Your emotional state, your thoughts, they always make sense. They're always coming from somewhere, and there's a solution to them that will feel satisfying. If you find the solution, you'll be like, oh, now I understand it. I get it. I get why I felt that way. It makes complete sense. And once you speak like that to yourself, which is in an understanding way, then that problem usually falls away. Or at least it doesn't feel like a burden anymore, because you're being understanding with yourself. So you're like, look, I get it. It makes sense why it's there. So I'm going to allow it to have its space to heal and to fall away, you know, whenever it's ready, whenever I'm ready to let go of it. And being understanding and kind to yourself is the best coping mechanism you can have. You can get through everything in life by being kind and understanding to yourself. Using that inner voice actively to support yourself, then literally you can get through everything in life. So that's something to work on. Anyways, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that you learned something valuable for your own lives through this. Maybe you saw yourself in some of these situations. Just find a path that works for you, that helps you feel uplifted and good in your life. And usually it means going into your mind and using that inner voice in an understanding way. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.